Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UHS Defiance, staring at the stars through the main window. The ship was heading back to Earth, but this was not the happy return they had planned. Jake's face was grim as he thought about what had happened at the Galactic Council meeting. 3 days ago, Jake and his crew had arrived at the Council station with high hopes. Earth had received an invitation to join the Galactic Council after decades of trying to make contact with alien races. It seemed like humanity's greatest dream was finally coming true. They would no longer be alone in the universe. The Council station was massive, bigger than any human city. Ships from dozens of different alien species filled the docking bays. Jake had been amazed by the variety of beings he saw. There were the tall insect-like Zephyrians with their 4 arms and shiny black eyes. The crystalline Vorthon beings looked like living gemstones that sparkled when they moved. Other species were even stranger, some looking like walking plants or floating gas clouds. Captain Ryan Blake had led the human delegation into the Great Council chamber. The room was enormous, with representatives from over 50 different species. At the center sat the Zephyrian Empress Zithara, her insect features making it hard for humans to read her emotions. Next to her was the Vorthon leader, a being made of blue crystal that pulsed with inner light. The meeting had started well. The aliens seemed interested in humanity and asked many questions about Earth's culture, technology, and military capabilities. Jake had thought they were just being friendly and curious. Now he realized how wrong he had been. Lieutenant Lisa Grant burst onto the bridge, her face pale with worry. She was the ship's communications officer and one of the best code breakers in the Earth Defense Force. In her hands, she carried a datapad with information that would change everything. "Commander Morrison, you need to see this right away," Lisa said, her voice shaking slightly. "I've been monitoring alien communications since we left the station. I finally cracked their encryption codes." Jake took the datapad and began reading. With each line, his expression grew darker. The intercepted messages revealed the truth about the Galactic Council's real intentions. They had not invited humanity to join them. Instead, they had lured Earth's representatives to the station to study them like laboratory animals. The Council had been watching humanity for years, growing more worried as human technology advanced rapidly. While other species had taken thousands of years to develop space travel, humans had gone from first flight to interstellar ships in less than 2 centuries. This scared the older galactic civilizations. The messages showed that the Council considered humanity a threat that needed to be eliminated before they became too powerful. The membership invitation was really a trap to gather intelligence about human military strength and technology. Now that they had what they needed, the Council was preparing to attack Earth. Jake felt sick as he read about the planned assault. Fleets from multiple species were already moving toward human space. They intended to destroy every human colony and turn Earth into a dead rock floating in space. The Council called it preventive pest control. Captain Ryan Blake entered the bridge at that moment. His diplomatic uniform rumpled from the long journey. Ryan was a good man who had spent his career trying to build peaceful relationships with alien species. The betrayal had hit him hard. "Jake, we need to warn Earth immediately," Ryan said. "I've been thinking about everything that happened at the station. The questions they asked, the way they looked at our equipment. They were planning this from the beginning." "I know, sir," Jake replied, handing Ryan the datapad. "Lisa cracked their communications. It's worse than we thought. They're not just planning to attack us. They want to wipe out every human in the galaxy." Ryan read the messages, his face growing pale. As a diplomat, he had always believed that peaceful solutions could be found to any problem. But there was no negotiating with beings who saw your entire species as a disease to be cured. "How long do we have?" Ryan asked. Lisa checked her calculations. "Based on their fleet movements, the first attacks will hit our outer colonies in about 6 days. The main assault on Earth will begin in 2 weeks. The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. Earth's military was strong for a young civilization, but they had never faced anything like this. The combined fleets of the Galactic Council included millions of ships and weapons that human scientists could barely understand. Jake made a decision that would change the course of history. He walked to the communications console and began entering a special code that very few people in the Earth Defense Force knew about. It was called Protocol Omega, and it had been created for exactly this kind of situation. "Sir, what are you doing?" Lisa asked nervously. "Something I hoped I would never have to do," Jake replied as he finished entering the code. The message was simple but carried enormous weight. It contained just 2 words, Protocol Omega. The transmission shot through space toward Earth at faster than light speed. It would reach Terra Command in a few hours, where it would trigger events that had been planned in secret for decades. On Earth, Admiral Patricia Hayes was working late in her office at Terra Command when the message arrived. Patricia was one of the few people who knew what Protocol Omega really meant. She had helped create the protocol 20 years earlier when Earth's leaders realized that humanity might someday face an enemy too powerful for conventional weapons. Patricia stood up slowly and walked to a special secure terminal. She entered her authorization codes and confirmed the Protocol Omega activation. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, automated systems that had been sleeping for decades began to wake up. The Galactic Council thought they knew everything about human military capabilities. They had studied Earth's ships, weapons, and defensive systems during the diplomatic meetings. What they did not know was that humanity's greatest weapons had been hidden from the very beginning. For 30 years, Earth's best scientists and engineers had been working on a secret project. They had built weapons and ships that used technology far beyond anything the aliens had seen. These weapons had been hidden away, waiting for the day when humanity's survival depended on them. That day had finally come. As the UHS Defiance continued its journey back to Earth, Jake Morrison looked out at the stars and wondered what would happen next. He knew that the peaceful era of human expansion was over. The galaxy had declared war on his species, but they had no idea what humanity was capable of when pushed to the edge of extinction. The real fight was about to begin. 5 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean, something enormous began to stir. The USS Titan had been sleeping in its underwater base for 30 years, waiting for the day when humanity would need its power. That day had finally arrived. Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez stood in the massive control room, watching hundreds of screens come to life. Danny had worked on the Titan project since he was a young engineer fresh out of college. Now, at 55 years old, he was seeing his life's work finally awakened. The Titan was unlike any ship ever built by humans or aliens. It stretched 5 kilometers from front to back, making it longer than most cities. Its hull was made from materials that human scientists had discovered deep in the Earth's core. These metals were stronger than anything the Galactic Council had ever seen. "Power systems coming online," called out Dr. Kevin Shaw from his station. Kevin was the lead scientist for the Titan's weapon systems. He had spent decades developing technologies that pushed the limits of physics. Quantum reactors are stable and operating at full capacity. The ship's main power came from quantum reactors that turned pure energy into usable power. Each reactor could power an entire Earth city for 1,000 years. The Titan had 12 of them. Captain Helen Parker walked onto the bridge, her steps echoing in the vast chamber. Helen was 42 years old and had been chosen to command the Titan after years of testing and training. She was not just a ship captain, but also the key to the Titan's most important system. "Atlas, are you ready for neural integration?" Helen asked, speaking to the ship's artificial intelligence. A smooth, calm voice responded from speakers throughout the bridge. "Yes, Captain Parker. All systems are prepared for neural linking. I must remind you that this process has never been tested in actual combat conditions." Helen nodded. She knew the risks. The Titan was too complex for any human crew to operate normally. Instead, the ship required a direct mental connection between its captain and the AI system called Atlas. This would allow them to control the massive vessel as if it were an extension of Helen's own body. "Begin the linking process," Helen ordered as she sat in the captain's chair. Thin cables extended from the chair and connected to ports that had been surgically installed in Helen's spine years earlier. As the connection activated, Helen felt her consciousness expand. Suddenly, she could feel every part of the massive ship. She could sense the power flowing through its systems and feel the ocean water pressing against its hull. "Neural link established," Atlas announced. "Captain Parker, we are now fully integrated. How do you feel?" Helen smiled as she felt the incredible power at her command. "I feel like I could take on the entire galaxy." While the Titan prepared for battle, the first alien attacks were already beginning. On Mars, the human mining colonies came under assault from Zephyrian raiders. The insect-like aliens attacked without warning, destroying supply ships and orbital stations. Colonel Ben Foster commanded the Mars Defense Force from his base in New Houston. Ben watched helplessly as his fighters tried to defend against alien ships that were faster and better armed than anything humans had built. The Earth Defense Force ships were good, but they had been designed to fight other humans, not advanced alien technology. "Sir, we're losing ships faster than we can launch them," reported Lieutenant Amy Collins from the communication station. "The alien weapons cut through our shields like they're not even there." Ben gritted his teeth in frustration. His pilots were brave and skilled, but they were fighting with outdated equipment against an enemy that had been building weapons for thousands of years. "Keep fighting," he ordered. "Help is coming." On Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon, similar battles were taking place. The human research stations were under attack by Vorthon crystal ships that fired beams of pure energy. Dr. Nancy White, the head of the Europa colony, sent desperate messages back to Earth asking for help. Back on the Titan, Helen Parker felt every human death like a knife in her heart. Through the neural link, she was connected to all human communication networks. She could hear the desperate calls for help from the colonies. "Danny, how long until we can launch?" Helen asked through the ship's internal communication system. 15 minutes, Captain," Danny replied from the engineering section. "We're bringing the Void engine online now. This is the part that makes me nervous." The Void engine was the Titan's most experimental weapon system. It could tear holes in space and time itself, allowing the ship to travel instantly across vast distances. The theory was sound, but it had never been tested with a ship this large. Dr. Kevin Shaw was running final checks on the weapon systems. The Titan carried 3 types of weapons that would revolutionize space combat. The quantum torpedoes could phase through enemy shields and explode inside the target. The gravity cannons could crush ships by manipulating gravitational fields. Most dangerous of all were the Void missiles that could erase matter from existence. "All weapon systems are ready, Captain," Kevin reported. "The quantum torpedoes are loaded and the gravity cannons are charged. I recommend we test the smaller weapons first before using the Void missiles." Helen felt the ship's eagerness through their neural connection. The Titan wanted to fight, to protect humanity from the alien threat. "Understood. Danny, begin the launch sequence." Deep beneath the ocean, massive pumps began draining water from the underground dock. The Titan slowly rose from its resting place, shedding 30 years of concealment. Emergency systems activated throughout the base as thousands of tons of water were displaced. On the surface of the Pacific Ocean, fishing boats and cargo ships suddenly found themselves in the middle of a massive whirlpool. The water swirled and churned as something enormous rose from the depths. Captain Rodriguez of the cargo ship Pacific Star stared in amazement as a metal mountain emerged from the ocean. "What in the name of heaven is that thing?" he whispered. The Titan broke the surface like a breaching whale, sending waves hundreds of feet high in all directions. Water cascaded off its hull as the massive ship rose into the sky. Its hull was dark gray, almost black, and covered with weapon ports and sensor arrays. People around the world stopped what they were doing as news reports showed the incredible sight. The massive ship blocked out the sun over several Pacific islands as it climbed toward space. No one had known that such a thing existed. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency alarms began sounding as their long-range sensors detected the Titan's launch. The Zephyrian Empress Zythara stared at the readings in disbelief. "This is impossible," she hissed through her mandibles. "Our intelligence report said humans only had small patrol ships and a few cruisers. What is that massive vessel?" The Vorthon leader's crystal body pulsed with worried light. "Our sensors cannot penetrate its hull. The materials are unknown to our databases. How did such a primitive species build something so large?" As the Titan reached orbit, Helen Parker felt a sense of grim satisfaction. The aliens thought they knew everything about humanity. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. "Atlas, set course for Jupiter," Helen commanded. "It's time to show the galaxy what humans can really do." The massive ship turned toward the outer solar system, where Vorthon fleets were attacking human colonies. The real war was about to begin, and humanity's greatest weapon was finally ready to fight. The Vorthon fleet hung in space near Jupiter like a collection of deadly jewels. 47 crystal ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls glowing with inner light. Admiral Kethrall commanded the fleet from his flagship, a massive vessel shaped like a living diamond. Kethrall was ancient, even by Vorthon standards. He had lived for over 3,000 years and fought in hundreds of battles across the galaxy. His crystal body pulsed with confidence as he watched his ships destroy human mining stations around Jupiter's moons. The humans fight bravely but foolishly, Kethril told his officers. Their primitive ships cannot penetrate our energy shields. This will be over soon. The human defenders were indeed struggling. Captain Mike Johnson commanded the Jupiter Defense Force from his cruiser UHS Guardian. Mike watched his ships get torn apart by Vorthan energy beams that sliced through human armor like hot knives through butter. "Sir, we've lost the destroyers Lincoln and Washington," reported his tactical officer. "The aliens are moving toward Europa. We can't stop them with conventional weapons." Mike felt helpless as he watched the alien ships advance. The Vorthan vessels were beautiful but deadly, their crystal hulls deflecting every human weapon. It seemed like nothing could hurt them. Then something appeared on the edge of the sensor screen that made Mike's heart skip a beat. A massive signature was approaching from Earth, moving faster than anything he had ever seen. "What is that?" Mike whispered as he stared at the readings. The Titan dropped out of its void jump right in the middle of the Vorthan fleet. The massive human ship appeared without warning, its 5-kilometer hull dwarfing the crystal vessels around it. For a moment, both sides stopped fighting in pure amazement. Admiral Kethril stared at the enormous ship that had suddenly materialized among his fleet. His ancient mind struggled to process what he was seeing. "Impossible," he whispered. "Human technology cannot produce vessels of such size." On the Titan's bridge, Captain Helen Parker felt the neural link humming with energy. Through Atlas, she could sense every alien ship around them. The Vorthan vessels were beautiful but predictable, moving in patterns that had not changed in thousands of years. "Commander Foster, launch all fighters," Helen ordered. "Show them what human pilots can do." Ben Foster had been transferred to the Titan just days before the launch. He now commanded the ship's fighter wing from the massive hangar bay. The fighters themselves were works of art, sleek vessels equipped with miniaturized versions of the Titan's advanced weapons. "All pilots, this is Commander Foster," Ben announced over the communication system. "Remember your training. These aliens think they're fighting primitive humans. Let's show them how wrong they are." 60 fighters launched from the Titan's bays, swarming out like angry bees. Each fighter was piloted by a human who had trained for years in secret, preparing for this moment. They moved with coordination that surprised the alien observers. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez piloted Fighter Hawk 7, diving toward a Vorthan cruiser with her quantum missiles locked and ready. Sarah had grown up on Mars and had watched alien ships destroy her home colony. Now she had a chance for revenge. "Fox 3, quantum missiles away," Sarah called out as she fired her weapons. The quantum missiles did something that should have been impossible. Instead of bouncing off the Vorthan shields, they passed right through the energy barriers and exploded inside the alien ship. The crystal vessel shattered like glass, its remains sparkling in the light of Jupiter. Admiral Kethril watched in shock as his ships began exploding around him. The human weapons were ignoring his fleet's shields completely. "How are they doing this?" he demanded from his tactical officer. "Unknown, Admiral," the officer replied, his crystal body flickering with confusion. "Their weapons operate on principles not found in our databases." On the Titan, Dr. Kevin Shaw monitored the battle from the weapons control center. The quantum torpedoes were working exactly as designed, phasing through enemy defenses and exploding inside the target ships. But Kevin knew the real test was yet to come. "Captain Parker, I recommend we demonstrate the gravity cannons," Kevin suggested through the neural link. Helen focused her attention on the Titan's main weapons. The gravity cannons were massive devices that could manipulate gravitational fields within a limited area. She selected 3 Vorthan ships that were trying to escape and locked onto them. "Fire gravity cannons," Helen commanded. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Invisible gravitational forces reached out from the Titan and grabbed the fleeing ships. The Vorthan vessels began to crumple like tin cans as artificial gravity fields compressed them from all sides. Admiral Kethril watched his ships being crushed by forces he could not see or understand. The crystal hulls that had protected Vorthan fleets for millennia were being compressed into tiny balls of matter. "All ships, retreat immediately," Kethril ordered. "We cannot fight weapons that ignore the laws of physics." But it was too late for many of his vessels. The human fighters continued their attacks, their quantum missiles tearing through the Vorthan fleet like a hot wind through ice. In less than an hour, 37 of the 47 ships had been destroyed. Captain Mike Johnson watched the battle from his cruiser, hardly believing what he was seeing. The mysterious human ship had single-handedly destroyed an entire alien fleet. "Who are they?" he wondered aloud. As the surviving Vorthan ships fled toward deep space, Helen Parker felt a grim satisfaction through the neural link. The aliens had learned their first lesson about underestimating humanity. "Atlas, send a message to all human colonies," Helen ordered. "Tell them that help has arrived." The message spread quickly through human space. The mysterious ship that had appeared from nowhere had saved Jupiter and its moons. Hope began to return to the human colonies that had been under attack. But the victory came with a price. On distant worlds, alien leaders received reports of the battle with growing alarm. The Zephyrian Empress Zythara read the tactical analysis with her 4 hands trembling in rage. "The humans have been hiding their true capabilities," she hissed to her war council. "They made us believe they were weak while secretly building superweapons." The Galactic Council emergency session was called immediately. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss this new threat. The humans were no longer seen as primitive creatures to be easily eliminated. They had become a serious danger to galactic stability. Dr. Ashley Bell monitored alien communications from the Titan's Intelligence Center. Ashley was an expert in alien languages and had spent years learning to understand the complex communication systems used by different species. "Captain, I'm picking up massive alien transmissions," Ashley reported. "They're organizing a much larger fleet. It looks like every species in the Council is contributing ships." Helen felt the neural link pulse with concern. Through Atlas, she could process the intercepted data faster than any human mind alone. The aliens were not just angry about their defeat at Jupiter. They were terrified. "How many ships are they sending?" Helen asked. Ashley checked her calculations twice before responding. "Over 10,000 vessels, Captain. Ships from more than 50 different species, and they're bringing something called a star render." The name sent chills through the bridge crew. Even Atlas seemed concerned as it processed the implications. A star render was a theoretical weapon that could destroy entire planets. If the aliens were bringing such a device, they intended to make sure Earth could never threaten them again. "Set course for Earth," Helen ordered. "We need to prepare for the real battle." As the Titan jumped back toward home, Helen realized that their victory at Jupiter had changed everything. The aliens now knew that humanity possessed weapons they could not understand or defend against. But instead of surrendering, the Galactic Council was preparing to bring their full might against Earth. The small skirmish at Jupiter had been just the beginning. The real war was about to start, and the survival of the human race hung in the balance. Helen felt the weight of responsibility through her neural connection with Atlas. Whatever happened next, humanity would face it together. The galaxy was about to learn that when humans were pushed to the edge of extinction, they became truly dangerous. Admiral Patricia Hayes stood in the war room deep beneath Terra Command, staring at a holographic display that showed the approaching alien armada. The combined fleets of the Galactic Council filled the screen like a swarm of angry insects. Over 10,000 ships from dozens of species were heading toward Earth. "They're not taking any chances this time," Patricia said to General Tony Martinez, who commanded Earth's planetary defenses. "Every major species in the Council has contributed ships to this fleet." Tony nodded grimly as he studied the tactical display. "Our intelligence suggests they're bringing planet-killing weapons. They don't just want to defeat us. They want to make sure Earth can never threaten them again." The news from Jupiter had spread panic through the Galactic Council. The easy victory they had expected against primitive humans had turned into a devastating defeat. Now they were bringing everything they had to destroy humanity once and for all. Patricia walked to a secure terminal and entered another set of authorization codes. The time for hiding humanity's true capabilities was over. "Activate Protocol Omega Phase 2, she commanded. Across human space, automated systems that had been dormant for decades began awakening. Hidden bases that did not appear on any official maps started powering up their ancient machinery. Humanity's greatest secret was about to be revealed. On Europa, beneath the ice-covered surface, massive hangar doors began opening for the first time in 30 years. The USS Goliath rose from its hiding place, breaking through kilometers of ice as it climbed toward space. Captain Monica Price stood on the bridge of the massive vessel, feeling the excitement of finally taking her ship into battle. The Goliath was similar to the Titan but specialized for different types of combat. Where the Titan focused on raw firepower, the Goliath was designed for speed and stealth. Its hull was covered with adaptive camouflage that could make it nearly invisible to enemy sensors. "All systems green, Captain," reported Commander Larry Gibson from the engineering station. "The Ghost Drive is ready for activation. Monica smiled as she felt the ship's systems coming online. The Ghost Drive was one of humanity's most advanced technologies, allowing a ship to phase partially out of normal space. An enemy could see the Goliath but could not hit it with conventional weapons. Meanwhile, in the asteroid belt, another secret base was revealing itself. The USS Kraken emerged from inside a hollowed-out asteroid, shedding tons of rock and metal as it broke free. Captain Steve Carson commanded this vessel, which was designed specifically for close-range combat. The Kraken looked like a mechanical monster, covered with weapon pods and armor plating. Its specialty was void missiles that could erase matter from existence. Where other ships destroyed their targets, the Kraken made them simply disappear. "Engineering reports all weapons ready, sir," announced Lieutenant Carol Thompson from her station. "The void missile tubes are loaded and ready to fire." Steve felt a surge of anticipation as he looked at the tactical display. The alien fleet would arrive at Earth in less than 12 hours. They would be expecting to face only the Titan and conventional human forces. They had no idea what was waiting for them. Dr. Nancy White, now aboard the Titan, coordinated the movements of all 3 super battleships through quantum communication links. Nancy had helped design the integration systems that allowed the ships to work together as a single fighting force. "All ships report ready for combat," Nancy announced to Captain Helen Parker. "The Goliath and Kraken are moving to their assigned positions." Helen felt the neural link pulse with satisfaction. Through Atlas, she could sense her sister ships taking their places around Earth. The 3 vessels formed a triangle of protection around humanity's home world, each one ready to unleash weapons that could change the course of galactic history. On the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship, Empress Zithara studied the tactical reports with her 4 compound eyes. Her massive fleet included the most powerful ships from every Council species. Fourth-hand crystal vessels sailed alongside Metheran bioships and Corvani energy beings. "Our scouts report only 3 large human vessels defending Earth," announced her tactical officer. "The ship that destroyed our Jupiter fleet plus 2 others of similar size." Zithara clicked her mandibles in satisfaction. 3 ships against 10,000. Even with their strange weapons, they cannot hope to win such a battle. But the Empress did not know about humanity's final surprise. In the center of the alien formation, protected by layers of escort vessels, was the Star Render. This massive device was the Council's ultimate weapon, designed to crack planets like eggs. Admiral Vextar of the Corvani commanded the Star Render from his energy form. The Corvani were beings of pure energy who lived inside specially designed containment suits. Vextar had used planet-killing weapons before, and felt no emotion about destroying Earth. "Charging sequence will begin when we reach weapons range," Vextar announced to the fleet commanders. "The human world will be reduced to asteroid fragments within minutes." As the alien armada approached Earth, the 3 human super battleships moved into their final positions. The Titan took point directly between the aliens and Earth. The Goliath used its stealth systems to hide among the debris of the asteroid belt. The Kraken positioned itself near Mars, ready to strike at the alien flanks. "Enemy fleet entering outer system," reported Dr. Ashley Bell from the Titan's Intelligence Center. "I count over 12,000 ships. They're not holding anything back." Helen felt the weight of responsibility through her neural link with Atlas. The survival of her entire species depended on what happened in the next few hours, but she also felt confidence. Humanity had spent 30 years preparing for this moment. The first alien scouts entered weapons range and immediately opened fire on the Titan. Energy, beams and missile volleys filled space as thousands of ships concentrated their attacks on the lone human vessel, but the Titan's shields held. The advanced defensive systems absorbed and deflected attacks that would have destroyed entire fleets of conventional ships. Return fire from the Titan's weapons carved through the alien formation like a sword through paper. "Goliath, you are clear to begin your attack run," Helen commanded through the quantum communication link. Captain Monica Price activated the Ghost Drive, and her ship phased partially out of normal space. The Goliath became a shadow that alien sensors could barely detect. It moved through the enemy formation like a phantom, its weapons striking without warning. Fourth-hand ships exploded as quantum torpedoes materialized inside their hulls. Zephyrian vessels crumpled under gravitational attacks that came from seemingly empty space. The aliens had never faced an enemy they could not properly target. Captain Steve Carson brought the Kraken into the battle with devastating effect. Void missiles reached out from his ship and touched alien vessels, causing them to simply cease to exist. Entire squadrons vanished as if they had never been built. The alien fleet, despite its massive size, began to fall apart under the coordinated human assault. Ships collided with each other as they tried to avoid weapons they could not understand. The careful formations that had taken hours to organize dissolved into chaos. Empress Zythara watched her fleet being destroyed and felt something she had never experienced before: fear. Her species had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, but these humans were fighting with weapons that seemed to ignore the basic laws of physics. All ships, protect the star render, she commanded desperately. If we can destroy their planet, we can still win this battle. Admiral Vextar began the charging sequence for the planet-killing weapon. The star render gathered energy from the quantum void, preparing to unleash a beam that would crack Earth's crust and boil its oceans. The device needed 10 minutes to reach full power, but the human ships were not going to give him 10 minutes. As alien formations collapsed around them, the 3 super battleships began converging on the star render. Whatever happened next would determine the fate of both humanity and the Galactic Council. The final phase of the battle was about to begin, and the outcome would reshape the galaxy forever. The star render pulsed with deadly energy at the center of the alien formation. Admiral Vextar watched the charging sequence with growing excitement as the planet-killing weapon prepared to fire. In 8 minutes, Earth would be nothing but floating debris. Charging at 60%, announced the Corvani energy being from his containment suit. No force in the galaxy can stop us now. Around the massive weapon, thousands of alien ships formed protective layers. Zephyrian cruisers, Vorthan crystal vessels, and ships from dozens of other species created a wall of firepower between the star render and the attacking human vessels. But Captain Helen Parker had a plan that would change everything. Through her neural link with Atlas, she could feel the quantum energies building inside the star render. The weapon was powerful, but it had a critical weakness that its builders had never considered. All ships, this is the Titan, Helen announced over the quantum communication link. Prepare for synchronized void engine activation. We're going to do something that's never been attempted before. Captain Monica Price felt a chill of fear as she understood what Helen was planning. Captain Parker, the theoretical models show that synchronizing 3 void engines could tear a hole in space-time itself. We don't know what would happen. I know exactly what will happen, Helen replied through the neural link. We're going to save Earth. The 3 human super battleships began moving toward the star render, cutting through the alien defensive lines like unstoppable forces of nature. The Titan absorbed massive amounts of enemy fire, its advanced shields glowing white-hot under the assault. The Goliath phased in and out of normal space, its ghost drive making it nearly impossible for the aliens to target effectively. Quantum torpedoes and gravity cannons reached out from the Phantom ship, destroying entire squadrons of enemy vessels. The Kraken unleashed void missiles that erased alien ships from existence. Captain Steve Carson watched with grim satisfaction as Zephyrian battlecruisers simply vanished, leaving only empty space where they had been moments before. Empress Zythara screamed orders at her fleet commanders as she watched her carefully planned formation collapse. Stop them! All ships concentrate fire on the human vessels, but the alien weapons could not penetrate the advanced human defenses. 30 years of secret development had given humanity technologies that the Galactic Council could not match. Energy shields that had never been seen before deflected attacks that should have been devastating. Dr. Kevin Shaw monitored the void engine preparations from the Titan's engineering section. The synchronized activation would require perfect timing between all 3 ships. A mistake of even a few milliseconds could destroy them all. Void engines at maximum charge, Kevin announced. All ships report ready for synchronized activation. The star render reached 80% charge. Admiral Vextar could see Earth growing larger on his screens as the weapon prepared to fire. Soon the home world of these troublesome humans would be reduced to cosmic dust. Helen Parker made her decision. Through the neural link, she felt Atlas calculating the exact moment for activation. The 3 ships were positioned in a perfect triangle around the star render, their void engines ready to tear reality itself apart. All ships, activate void engines on my mark, Helen commanded. 3, 2, 1, mark. The 3 void engines activated simultaneously, creating a resonance cascade that had never been seen before in the galaxy. Space and time began to twist around the star render as reality itself started to break down. Admiral Vextar watched in horror as his instruments went crazy. The space around the star render was folding in on itself, creating gravitational effects that defied understanding. "What are they doing?" he screamed. The synchronized void engines created a temporary wormhole that began pulling everything nearby into its hungry maw. The star render, still charging its planet-killing beam, was caught in the gravitational maelstrom. Alien ships that had been protecting the weapon found themselves being pulled into the spatial anomaly. Zephyrian vessels and Vorthan crystals alike were crushed by forces that existed beyond normal physics. The star render tried to fire its weapon, but the beam was pulled into the wormhole and disappeared into another dimension. The planet-killing device that was supposed to destroy Earth instead vanished into the void, taking half the alien fleet with it. Helen Parker felt the incredible strain of maintaining the wormhole through her neural link. The forces involved were tearing at her mind, but she held on as long as she could. When she finally released the void engines, the spatial anomaly collapsed with a flash of light that could be seen from Earth. The silence that followed was deafening. Where the center of the alien formation had been, there was now only empty space. The star render and over 5,000 alien ships had simply vanished, pulled into a dimension that no one understood. The surviving alien vessels hung motionless in space, their crews too shocked to respond. They had brought the most powerful weapon in galactic history to destroy humanity, and it had been turned against them by forces they could not comprehend. Empress Zithara stared at the empty space where her superweapon had been moments before. Her compound eyes could not process what had happened. "Impossible," she whispered through her mandibles. The 3 human super battleships emerged from the spatial distortion, their hulls glowing with residual energy. The Titan had taken damage from the incredible forces involved, but all 3 vessels were intact. Captain Helen Parker slumped in her command chair, blood trickling from her nose where the neural strain had pushed her beyond human limits. Dr. Ellen Murphy, the ship's medical officer, immediately began treating her injuries. "Status report," Helen whispered weakly. "The alien fleet is broken," reported Dr. Ashley Bell. "Most of their remaining ships are trying to retreat. They're sending surrender signals on all frequencies." The psychological impact of the battle was as important as the military victory. The Galactic Council had brought their greatest weapon and their largest fleet against humanity, only to see them disappear into a hole in space-time itself. Within hours, alien leaders across the galaxy were sending desperate peace offers to Earth. The Zephyrian Empress formally surrendered her empire's fleet. The Vorthon Collective offered tribute and technological exchange. Species that had never heard of humans before suddenly wanted to establish diplomatic relations. Admiral Patricia Hayes stood in the Terra Command Center, reading the flood of surrender messages. The woman who had activated Protocol Omega now faced a choice that would determine the future of galactic civilization. "They're all afraid of us now," General Tony Martinez observed. "We could demand anything we want. We could rule the entire galaxy." Patricia looked out at the stars and thought about humanity's long journey from a single planet to the most feared military power in the galaxy. The Galactic Council had tried to destroy them for being too dangerous. Now their worst fears had come true. But instead of conquest, Patricia chose a different path. She authorized a response that surprised everyone, including her own staff. Instead of demanding tribute or submission, humanity offered a new galactic charter based on mutual respect and cooperation. The giant battleships that could have become tools of galactic domination instead became symbols of a new age. The Titan Goliath and Kraken would patrol the galaxy not as conquerors but as guardians of peace. Captain Helen Parker recovered from her injuries with the help of Dr. Ellen Murphy and the ship's advanced medical systems. As she stood on the Titan's bridge looking out at Earth, she realized that humanity had won something more valuable than military victory. "Atlas, what do you think our future holds?" Helen asked the ship's AI. "I believe humans will surprise the galaxy again," Atlas replied in its calm voice. "But this time, it will be with wisdom instead of weapons." 6 months later, Captain Gary Phillips stood on the bridge of the newest human super battleship, the USS Liberty. His mission was to make contact with alien species beyond the former Council territory, bringing an offer of friendship instead of conquest. The Galactic Council's betrayal had transformed humanity from a species seeking acceptance into the galaxy's most powerful civilization. But instead of using their strength to dominate others, humans chose to build a better future for all intelligent life. The giant battleships that had been built in secret to protect Earth now served a greater purpose. They were proof that when pushed to the edge of extinction, humanity could become something greater than anyone imagined. The galaxy had learned to fear human weapons, but now they were learning to respect human wisdom. The species that had once been dismissed as primitive barbarians had become the guardians of galactic peace. And in the depths of space, where the star render had vanished into the void, strange energies still flickered. The wormhole had closed, but it had left something behind. New possibilities for exploration and discovery that would keep humanity busy for centuries to come. The age of human expansion had truly begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.